Well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Kelly Forden, and I'm the host of Let's Deconstruct a Story podcast. Let's Deconstruct a Story is a Substack for story nerds. Writers need to understand the components of a good story before writing one. Choices of POV, plot, setting, and tone are crucial. In each episode of the podcast, I interview a writer about one of their stories, which listeners can read for free on my website before they listen. And all podcast episodes are free. Paid subscribers and CWC members are invited to join me at least once a month for an interview with a podcast guest. These interviews are available via video only to paid subscribers and CWC members and are released months before the podcast becomes available to the general public. And my guest today is Madeleine Stein. Madeleine Stein's story, Too Beautiful, was the winner of the Stephen Dixon Fiction Prize. She is a fiction writer living in the Hudson Valley. Her work has appeared in the London Magazine, the Hopkins Review, the Kenyon Review, Ambit, Raymond Carver Review, Saranac Review, Cairo Times, and Orbis. She taught at the American University in Cairo and New York University. Welcome, Madeleine.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
I thought we would start like with the beginning of the story. I wondered if you might read for me like the first, two or three sentences so we can start off with the beginning.
Sure. Uh, for 22 years, my friend Isabel has visited me on my birthday. I never invite anyone else. She comes on the train from another city, a trip of 3 hours, and then takes the subway, maybe another 20 minutes. She always brings her camera, and when we walk the park, as we always do, often on the way to the museum, she stops many times to take pictures. Is that,
Yeah,
should I
that's
go?
perfect. No,
Okay.
no, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was interested in, oh, someone else has entered. One second. Um, I'm interested in the beginning of the story. You used, has visited. It's the present perfect tense of the verb. And from that, I gathered that by the end of the story, as the reader knows, even though, you know, the situation has changed and Isabel is no longer with her, that this feeling hasn't changed for Nora. In other words, Isabel is not replaceable. And I was just wondering about your decision to start the story like that.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure, but I think that when I first went over this story with the editor at the Hopkins Review, the question of that tense came up. And I think because it's a bit off, right? I mean, has visited me implies it's going to continue until the end of this story, at least that this visiting will go on. But I felt that I wanted to leave it that way. Because it does imply a sort of continuity and that there has been this continuity and steadiness in their relationship. And of course, the narrator knows already in a sense that it won't go on, but sort of to
Mhm.
leave that open, I guess, is part of
Yeah,
the reason I made that choice. Yeah.
yeah. It gives you the feeling that even if the actual situation is ending in the narrator's mind or Nora's mind, it's ongoing. It will keep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's true. I don't think I had I think that's very right. I hadn't quite thought of it that way, but I think that probably was part of the reason it felt right to me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What did you envision was happening in Nora and Isabel's lives outside of their relationship?
Um
We don't get a lot about their
yeah. Oh, you
outside
mean
life.
after they've met, but when they're not
Yes.
actually. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think I think that they live uh their lives are very separate, and I think as the narrator mentions, in a way she likes that Isabel, she has to travel to see her. She leaves her life behind when she sees her. And uh at when early on in the relationship, when she first meets Isabel seems, I realize reading this over that I have it as if she came from a different city, but it probably should have been country. But anyway, Isabel often seems European. So there's, I
Yeah.
think I think her life is probably more conventional than Isabel's, though neither of them lead lead a conventional women's life with the marriage and children.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that while the narrator works, I don't think it's clear necessarily whether Isabel works. So
Yeah.
I think Isabel has always has introduces the narrator to sort of habits or ways of living that
Mhm.
she's always known, but that they're new to the narrator. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and when so Isabel always brings her camera and everything makes her happy. And but we learned that the stop and go, like the picture taking, makes Nora queasy. And on a scale of 1 to 10, she finds it an annoying 7. And then later on, Isabel stops taking the pictures. But I just wanted to discuss a little bit, because it comes in so early, the significance of the camera and the picture taking in the story.
yeah. I this is one of those questions where I'm answering it, I think, more as a reader than a writer,
Hmm.
because as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I was aware of that. I mean, I was aware of it, but I didn't necessarily
Yeah.
know why I structured it that way. But I do think that she's Isabel loves life. She finds life delightful, and so the taking pictures is part of that. But it does break up the rhythm of the walk. And then I think she stops taking pictures partly because the camera is heavy, and
Mm.
partly and she's weaker. But also, I
Hmm.
think she's if you think of if she's taking those pictures to hold something in her memory, once she knows she's dying, that motive might
Right.
might stop. Yeah.
Yeah, she
Um,
lives like more immediately in the moment because she knows
yeah,
she just has the moment.
yeah. But I also
Yeah.
think it's mostly, yeah, as I said, mostly her just delight in the
Mhm.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Nora makes the trips in reverse to Isabel, she sleeps in a bed she describes as feeling as comfortable as if she is in the sky. And I loved that description. And I was wondering, when you were crafting the story, can you tell me how the details of their friendship came together for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, I when I in the first draft of the story, it went the aunt there was no aunt there's no great aunt Ida. There was much less about how they met and how the friendship developed. And it went very quickly, more quickly to her illness. And then a friend read it and said, I want to know, what drew these two together or how they
Mhm.
met. And I hadn't really necessarily felt the need for it, but I thought, well, I should pay attention to that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and so I worked on it, but uh I'm sort of you were just asking me how I sort of
yeah. Well, I was thinking like, like they meet in the florist shop, and I thought that was such a fascinating place for them to first meet up
yeah,
because it's like a place where, people are buying flowers for a wedding, like the beginning of something,
right,
but she's buying the flowers for her great aunt, and
right.
there's that element of grief. And so I thought it
Yeah,
was a great location that embodies all of those
yeah.
moments.
I think I needed to have some way for them to meet. I
Mm-hmm.
did work in a florist shop once, so I was able to draw on details. But also, the one of the things that goes on in a florist shop is all the very conventional markers of life, with,
Mm-hmm.
as you say, the marriage and the funerals. And I think that the narrator is, as she says, she's sort of being lulled into this, and it's a way for her to keep at bay the questions about what makes her life meaningful, what she wants, the uncertainty of her life. And so when Isabel comes in, she sort of frees her from that by
Mm-hmm.
responding so sort of outrageously to this
Yeah.
funeral, to the
And what do you
funeral
mean by
bouquet. Well, she says
like,
how hideous, right? And so,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
which,
yeah,
and they
exactly.
are kind of, but I mean, maybe that's just my opinion. But
No, 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 no. I agree.
and I think both. I think for me, like part of what the friendship is about, not necessarily what the story is about, but the friendship is about, is that they're both women who are sort of on their own. They have to find their own way of making life meaningful, of figuring out what they want. They don't have children. They don't have the more conventional sort of things that might give your life a sense of purpose. And I think
Mhm.
um, Isabel has figured that out more than Nora in a way and helps her
Yeah.
with that. So, I think also the repetition, she she's gotten very good at this job in the florist shop, but
Mhm.
it is as if she's under a spell.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so Isabel like has been tasked with cleaning out her
Mhm.
great aunt's things, and Nora comes to help her with that. And then you have the moment where there are the concert tickets, and the great aunt has had this relationship that Isabel knew nothing about.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering when that came to you in the crafting of the story, because it felt like a perfect parallel that you could. I mean, you can see how this relationship with its significant, the two of them, it has such significance for them,
Mhm.
but that, in real life, if no one was writing a story about them, this history would be lost forever. And so I felt
Yeah,
it was so poignant that she never discovers who the man is
yeah,
who she was meeting.
yeah. Um, I think again, it's like Aunt the great Aunt Ida is sort of the third woman who has had to figure out how to lead
Mhm,
this different kind of life. Also,
mhm.
I feel a little uneasy about that detail because I I used it in another story, and I can't
Oh,
remember which story came first, but I think it was percolating in my mind. And I actually think it fits better in the other story, which is about more a secret life. But
oh,
but
interesting.
in fact, the whole section with Aunt Ida is, I find when I'm reading it, I get a little nervous and impatient, want to get to the end of it and get back to the part of the story that was there originally, because that was the late edition. And I
Uh-huh.
haven't I think it worked, but it's fun, and that's not even a detail from real life, those concert tickets, but it somehow came to me, and I think it is, a poignant, this idea of this secret life and this
Yes.
life where you're not, again, connected in the more conventional ways. You're not integrated into society in the more conventional ways. So,
Right. And you
yeah,
think about that in terms of like being notified if something happens to someone and you don't have a connection that anybody else knows about. And there's no way to notify those
yeah.
people who might have tremendous impact on your
Right.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because we just a few days ago heard from somebody who found out 3 months late that a close friend of hers had died for that same reason. So
It-
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think it's something that happens all the time. Um, I didn't mention this before, but if anyone has questions and wants to put them in the chat or, raise a hand, you're welcome to do that as I'm talking, and I can, let you ask your question too. So don't hesitate. Um, so they go to the concert. Isabel is dressed up, and Nora can't remember, but she assumes she must have worn something dull. They both want wine, not tea. Isabel tells the narrator, or Nora, that she has become involved with an older married musician. And what gives them equality, according to Nora, is that Nora belongs to a more conventional world. And I think
Mhm.
that was something that was kind of in the background of the story, because so I wanted to discuss it because we don't really get a lot about their background, but in your
Yeah.
mind, you were thinking that her world was more conventional. Um, but I love the fact that Isabel and the married musician have these nicknames for each other.
Mhm.
And so I guess two-part question. What did you see as conventional about Nora? And then also, what did you see as this relationship with the married musician? What did you think the significance of that was?
Yeah. Um, I think that in a way, Nora's life is more conventional. It's as if Isabel is opening her eyes up to the possibility of a less conventional life. But
Hmm.
because her life is more conventional, she's more integrated. That gives her a certain amount of confidence in the world. And so I
Hmm.
think that's what I meant by the equality between them,
Hmm.
because Isabel could be the one who's the mentor and in their relationship is in a way the mentor, but
Right.
she has this other life that, where she earns a living and she has a job in this hospital. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
she
I
goes on.
get.
Um, and then I think with the married man, it's again the fact that she can't go to his funeral,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
it's again these lives that are lived um in
Like
secret. So
in secret.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so then she comes into town for a Max Beckman exhibit, and I always like to ask, like, was there a significance to Max Beckman in the
Um,
story? And
not
what's a little bit about him? Okay,
well, I
his
was going to
work.
say actually a couple of questions back that a lot of there are passages in this story that are really drawn from life and other
Hmm.
passages where I either invented things or brought in details from other contexts. And that's a detail I think I think the story is somewhat based on actually a friend of Betsy's who died, and I think she did like Max Beckman, but I think that I also wanted an artist that not everybody follows, but not as completely unknown.
Got
But I'm
it.
afraid there's
There was
maybe
no like super significance to him.
no,
Yeah. Okay.
no,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, you were talking about this before, but the story uses it's 4 pages to establish the importance of their
yeah,
relationship, and it's always fascinating to me to hear that these things don't come in the first draft for writers, that
yeah.
they add them later. But the last line before the turn into the illness ends with "I loved her and we grew closer and closer," and I did think that those 4 pages were necessary. Like if we
Mhm.
had entered right in the illness, that really was an establishing
Yeah,
shot that we needed, those 4 pages. Um, but, you know, it's wild to me that that wasn't there in the beginning. And I think
yeah.
that's good for like, beginning writers to know that, like,
Yeah,
that you don't always get the whole thing in one shot.
yeah. Actually, this is something Betsy told me that Haruki Murakami, when someone makes a comment on his writing, whether he values it or not, he'll go back and start again thinking about that comment. I don't, I'm, if I got that right, I think,
He rewrites the scene regardless, even if he disagrees with the comment, because he thinks something must be there, some
yeah,
element must be there. It was sort of a fascinating peek into his
So
mind.
yeah,
like it's someone who has like read the work and said, like, commented on it or commented about something that might
right.
be missing in the scene.
Yeah, like for instance, in
Yeah.
this story, it was my friend saying, I don't really understand sort of what brings these two together.
Yeah.
That made me go back. But I was thinking that maybe I should have started from the story again because part of what makes me nervous when I'm writing it is a feeling that it's not fully integrated. And it's good to hear you think that it has a place. Maybe if I were writing it again, I would try and shorten it a bit.
I
I
don't,
don't,
yeah. No,
I
I mean,
guess it's my
I didn't
own
think so. I don't know
impatience.
about anybody else, but
That's good to
yeah.
hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
No, not at all.
I also, the Hopkins Review wanted me to do a little podcast about this. And I had the same feeling when I reread it then as, oh, I want to get to the end of this part, to the part I feel closer to.
Isn't that
But
wild? Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and I was thinking about sometimes when things are drawn from life,
Hmm.
and someone has an importance, like if the story's loosely based on someone from life, and that person has an importance to the writer in life, I
Uh-huh.
think a lot of beginning writers will skip over all those details
Yeah,
because the character's already important to them, and
yeah,
then the reader's like, why is this person so important? So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah,
that's an impulse a lot of people have.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, I just wanted to point out a line that I absolutely loved where, the next paragraph, we learned that it's the narrator's, Nora's 45th birthday, and Isabel calls with terrible news, and she has cancer in her bones. And then you have this amazing line, it was an unknown, cracked, and empty land. And I just wanted to
Oh,
highlight
thank
that
you.
line because it was so perfect. Um, listening to a meditation, the narrator realizes that the peace and happiness are not the same thing. We learn
Mhm.
afterwards, and I wanted to discuss that because you felt it was important to bring in,
Yeah.
and I wondered about that.
Yeah, I think it's I think this is I think in some ways to me the story is about want and wanting,
Mhm.
and that uh this is the beginning of this Nora feeling like that she's losing her friend, but there's going to be some wisdom that her friend will impart to her because she's closer to death. And it starts with this recording that introduces this idea of equanimity, really, which is what I
Mhm.
think how she names it later on. And that there's that, she's been sort of living a life going about things, and now there's this possibility of sort of a new kind of uh, way of thinking about life, that
Mhm.
and this is becomes what she wants from her friend as she's dying.
Yeah,
And yeah, and
that
and
makes
her
sense.
yeah, and I think in the end her friend Isabel is not able to give it to her, and because she's sort of overcome by these other kinds of wants and forces. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, they pass this beautiful dog who has had chemotherapy, whose hair has grown back like puppy hair. And I thought that that was kind of a moment of hope, but it was
Mm.
also, a portent of doom. And I was
Yeah.
thinking about, I had just interviewed the writer Molly Dektar about her
Mhm.
story, The Bed and Breakfast, and she was saying that it's important to light the fuses before the bomb goes off. And that's how she
Mhm.
thinks of, like, adding symbols to the story. And
Oh,
this dog also was such a portent, like a fuse before the bomb goes
yeah.
off. And I wondered how those things in the story, did they come to you? Were there any things that later you thought were symbolic in the story
Yeah, I
that you
think,
didn't realize you'd put in
yeah.
when you were crafting it?
Yeah, I actually think that was a detail that wasn't in the first draft either, but I liked it,
Hmm.
and felt I think it does work that way. And also it is part of Isabel's love of materials, like just the feeling of the dog's silky fur, and that and that she just responds so immediately to the dog, while the narrator is Nora is thinking, you know, let's get on
Only
with the
about,
walk. Right.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
and
right.
and also we've got important things to think about. You're dying, and but
Yeah.
or I guess at this point, you have cancer, but that Isabel is like the material softness of the dog is so much of what,
Important to her.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess that does lead into her love of materials and,
Mm,
how she starts to order all of these items. And I thought
yeah.
that was, I also love in stories where something comes out of the blue and you don't see it coming at all, because I
Mhm.
didn't connect her ordering of all these things to her appreciation of the world around her, but she's ordering random, like,
Yeah,
bath mats and
right. I
yeah.
think, I mean, in my mind, in a way, it was sort of the her love of material things, like which she
Mhm.
makes this distinction, that between materialism and just things where you just want to acquire, but you don't appreciate. And part of what's happened is, I think she's slipped into this other kind of wanting too. The things are random because, in a sense, she's not seeing them as material things. She's been overcome by this anxiety in a way of
Mhm.
uh, maybe in almost like, the ancient Egyptians preparing for the things they're going to bring in their tomb with them. I mean,
I
although I
kind of
guess,
had that feeling
yeah,
actually, that she was like bringing all these things that
yeah,
um
it, yeah.
that
It's possibly, I mean, there's also the whole Amazon thing, and these, this idea of
yeah,
getting and spending.
you think you
Yeah.
can Well, that's
Yeah.
another thing. Like you
Yeah.
think you can make your life so comfortable and everything comes so easily and it'll come in a minute.
Yeah.
But none of that can save you from
Right.
this outcome.
Right. And
Yeah.
also it's it's not the world either of them planned to live in, sort of. They thought they were going to live in a world of beauty and meaning, and this kind of overtakes them in a way.
Hmm.
It's a force
Hmm.
that's out there that they have to sort of resist. And Isabel has been weakened in a way. I mean, I guess there's a little confusion maybe of, is this part of her love of material, or is it a corruption of that, you know?
Like a distortion of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Um, okay. If does anybody else have any questions? I don't want to take over the whole discussion. No, not yet. Okay. Oh, do you, Betsy? Okay, great.
I just wanted to, it occurred to me the poem that's quoted, the want.
Yes.
There's that, and I'm not sure where that comes in, but that's also has death in it, the death of the animal, and
Yeah.
it neither of those things I think occurred to me when I read it the most recent time.
Yeah.
Mm.
And there's a famous quote, I think I'm going to butcher it, and I don't know even who said it, but it's something like, the times I came closest to wanting nothing, I grasped it more. Do you know what I mean? Like, so
But
like as you're coming toward do you know what it is that I'm
no, say
trying to,
that again.
well,
As
I mean, there are moments where you're in these life and death situations, and if you've ever been around anyone who's dying, there's that moment where they stop wanting to watch the news or wanting
oh,
to,
yeah,
take part in the world.
yeah,
And it almost felt to me like she was in that pre-moment of trying to grasp at everything before she stops wanting anything at
yeah,
all. Yeah.
yeah. And then Nora keeps wanting something from her
Hmm.
too,
Yeah. What
again.
do you think? So, what do you think? Nora, she makes that statement that she wants some sort of, she loves this. I mean, she doesn't love this experience, but she wants to be in this experience and she thinks she's going to learn something about life from it.
Yeah.
What do you think she thought she would learn? Something
You
profound
know,
about,
yeah, I think
yeah.
something about maybe um relating to what she hears on that recording of what true peace is, what is it we truly want, right?
Hmm.
As opposed to what we think we want. What is even sort of what's the meaning of all this, and I think Isabel has sort of found meaning in life through beauty, through the material world in a way.
Hmm.
And she wants something to help her. She wants
Hmm.
some wisdom that's going to help her after Isabel's gone. And also she
Right.
feels that Isabel must have access to it because she's near to this, the most sort of, in some ways, like amazing thing that happens to us, which is that we die. I mean, it's
Right.
not,
Right. And what did you think that Isabel's sensibility was at the end? Did you think that she,
you know, I feel like so that was in a way something Nora wanted from her, but that we don't really know, right? Like
Mhm,
whether she had that wisdom toward the end. I don't think so. I think she was weakened, and part of what, and this was based on sort of something I guess I sort of witnessed that, you, particularly with being given fentanyl, and like we're
yeah,
not necessarily living this pure life connected to wisdom when we die, um,
right.
and that there are all these other forces in the world that actually I think make it difficult for us to know what we want and how to live and how to want. And so in some ways, no, she wasn't. Uh,
She
she
wasn't
was
able
very
to give.
weakened. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess that connects to these other people in her life, the knitter and Gloria, who don't want this from her. They just want to give,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Well, I want to ask about the knitter and Gloria, but I noticed Fran had her hand up for a second. I don't know if she still has a question, but
There were so many things in this story. Um, but what I was going to refer to, we passed that part already, is
oh, that's okay.
when she's ordering all of these objects, which I think, well, I shouldn't say to the author, but for me, it felt like a way of grasping onto concrete objects and creating a structure
Mhm.
as her brain gets also her thoughts get more diffused.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, having done this, I'm in the medical field,
Uh-huh.
uh I I found it very realistic,
Mhm.
and it was really amazing. At one point, I was going to stop reading it because it was too painful for me, which I think is a good thing for you, Madeline, because
I'm sorry.
it shows
I'll
how
try and write a
effective your
happy
work
story.
was. No, it's just, the sickness thing. I mean, I'm not doing it anymore, but I was
Yeah.
writing this morning about my COVID experience with patients and stuff. And, watching people die is very hard. And, I mean, I guess I could talk about this for hours. So I feel weird because I didn't organize my thoughts around it because I just
Mm.
saw this story very shortly before this began. I didn't even know it was there because I'm also bad at tech. But anyway, I loved so many of the details.
Oh, thank you.
Even buying the Russian pickles in the morning. I love this girlfriend friendship that was
Yeah.
so,
Mhm.
oh my God. I mean, it's just like well, I don't know if we all want it, but I always loved that, and I
Mhm.
had it with various people, all of whom died.
Oh,
So, it's it was so beautiful, and the photographs, connecting moments, and then the moments don't mean anything because mm, we die. And also, did you mention Syrah in there, or was it is it
yeah.
in my brain?
No, it's the because it's the painting. Is it Déjeuner sur l'herbe?
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
And she
yeah,
hates that paint, and she
yeah.
hates that
Shades it.
painting. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I thought of, I mean, I write about Syrah a lot, and Max Beckman too. I love them both.
Uh-huh.
And Syrah, um, with the pointillism, and it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
like little pieces of, I mean, in the end, I don't love his paintings, but I love the idea, the concept behind his
Oh, yeah,
paintings,
yeah,
Yeah,
because
like
these
that
little,
concept, like the little pieces make
yeah,
this,
little
yeah.
pieces, right?
yeah.
And so I linked it up with her taking photographs,
Uh-huh.
and then at the end, not taking photographs.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it was just, I don't know if you know how many layers you got into this one story. It's
Oh,
absolutely
thank
amazing.
you. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about her structuring her life, what you said at the beginning. I think that's true. And you know, I don't know if I thought of it that way, but I think I'm realizing more and more that, a story can mean well, I'm in a writing group and we sometimes talk about what a story is about. And
Mm,
one of the people in my group says he doesn't think a story has to be about anything. And I don't really feel that way. Or I wish I did.
mm.
Sometimes it seems freeing, but I think more and more, stories just have to be able to mean something. It's not really what they mean or that they just have to have that capacity. So I think those things you said, even though I may not have been aware of them, make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it was really, I mean, it, it was very good. And I will read it again and um try to pierce out the all the layers because I found it fascinating. And then plus my
Oh,
personal um connection to many of the things that you
Well,
wrote about. So
thank
thank
you.
you for that story.
Thank you. And I hope it doesn't make you sad. Too sad.
Well, well, I think, yeah, well, it makes it's about life,
Yeah,
and that makes us all feel connected. And I think that
right.
overshadows the sadness,
Yes, I think that's what I
or
hope
outweighs
for.
the sadness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk about. So I love how the knitting friend doesn't get a name until the end, and we learn that she and Nora circle each other like dogs. And then there's the line, the knitter began to come for even longer periods so that I could first take a short nap during the day and then go for a walk. The fact is, she was a very good person, though she bored me. She wasn't bored by me because she was a good person who did good without expecting anything in return
Mhm.
and expected nothing from Isabel, nothing of Isabel. She had a name, Allison. And I love the fact that you finally name her. And I was just wondering about that decision to name her at that point.
Yeah, I think in writing this, I realized that, Nora was being a bit of a bit judgmental about
Yeah,
these other
and a little
people,
possessive
and
too.
definitely
Yeah.
possessive, yeah. And that and I hadn't thought, and I thought, well, she's not even naming her, it's just
Mhm.
this knitting friend, which is has a little bit of disdain in it, like the knitting
Exactly.
friend.
Yeah, exactly.
So
The knitting just,
so
yeah, by itself.
so it's as if she's letting it's Nora giving her the name. I mean,
Hmm.
so
Yeah. So she finally
yeah,
has her,
yeah,
the importance that she was always due.
right. Realizing too that it's funny because she wants this wisdom from Isabel, and there's a kind of wisdom that both Gloria and the knitter have, or certainly a kind of capacity to give without wanting. And Gloria partly through religion, which
Yes.
is another
Right.
thing that the Nora doesn't have. I think when she's working in the florist shop and she that disdain comes out when she says, I'll put on letter by letter what they said
Yes.
about Jesus.
Yeah, I
But
love that.
so
That was hilarious. That was a very funny moment. And then that when
yeah,
the aide was it Gloria, or it says, I have here the aide says God believes in her. And I was
yeah,
annoyed by that line too. Jesus comes up once and now
yeah,
God. Um,
right.
but there is something to envy about those people who have something
Sure. Yeah.
to
Yeah. I
console them.
definitely and it's the yeah, it's and also it means you're part of a community and it's sort of I don't know if I really want to say this, but I was going to say, it's not like it can be like children in that way too. It gives you a purpose. I don't
Yeah.
mean to say that people
Well,
with children don't
but
also have
but
this
it
other sort of
no, no,
drive.
right. But
Yeah.
they have like, if nothing else, I have my children kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of an innate purpose.
Yeah.
Um, but uh yeah, now I lost my train of thought. I was going to say
Mm.
something about how at the end, when you're in those situations, so many random people come in and you have to be sort of gracious about it, right? And they all have
Yeah.
their wisdom or what they think is their wisdom that they're
Yeah.
bringing to the moment. But there's something elemental about those final moments with someone where everybody there's I don't know, I don't want to call it like a grace that comes down on everyone where you kind of
Yeah.
have to love everybody in the moment because you're all going through this thing
Right.
together. And the
Yeah.
story had that feeling, for the knitter and or Allison
Yeah.
and Gloria and her.
Yeah. And Isabel loved Gloria. I mean,
Mhm.
as a mother or a child. I mean, so
Right.
it gave a lot of despite the narrator's worry, actually, she was comforted by
Hmm.
by Gloria in the
By
end.
Gloria. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is like a surprising and sort of beautiful moment. So with the Buddhist monk and the want, you know, uh, and in the end, Isabel, I think, well, she says to her, do you want something? And Isabel doesn't answer, like
Yeah.
after wanting so much. And I think that was what I was talking about before. Um, and she says here, I didn't know that I had already heard her last words. Um,
Yeah. What
oh, well,
pages is it?
she asked for, she asked for her
Oh,
last words, or she asked for Gloria. And then Nora says she hasn't come yet.
Yeah,
And and then she says, "Do you want something?" And
yeah,
Isabel doesn't answer. And so her last words are, "Has she come yet?" And I love the fact that she literally doesn't want anything in the end because of all the things that she's been acquiring and
yeah,
wanting. Um, And then the last person on site is the Amazon man with what Isabel had ordered, what she had wanted. And then you have the line, "I climbed the small set of outside stairs, and through the glass of the front door, I saw the delivery man in the building's entranceway, his hand cart laden with boxes marked with the curved arrow. He was ringing the bell, pulsing it impatiently with his finger and shaking his head back and forth at the passing time. I pushed open the door and he took his hand off the bell, glad that someone had arrived. And though I can't say why, I understood from his presence, from his impatience, that I had also felt the last of my dearest friend's breaths. And that while I hadn't thought that the world of this possibly sweet man and his overloaded cart, the endless ordering and receiving was the world of my friend and me, it was, at least for the moment, stronger than all of us. It was the world Isabel had left behind. And that, I mean, it's like so powerful. I'm just wondering about crafting the ending there and the curved arrow. Like
yeah,
I've never, I mean, that's just amazing.
yeah. Um, that I wish I could remember the process of
I mean,
how
some of
that.
these things are just a gift, maybe,
Yeah,
when you're
I
right.
I think and it's kind of, I think, could be taken definitely two ways. In part that there's this force, there's this sort of distortion of what it means to want to make your life meaningful. That's, I think of Amazon as kind of a symbol.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And so
And it's so powerful.
yeah, it's so
It's,
powerful. And so it was a world that Nora and Isabel had sort of kept at bay until Isabel was dying. And
Mhm,
um I think in some ways I only thought about this also on reading it, not on writing it, that there's, in the 20 years of their friendship or so, 20 or so years, there's, it's a move from the pre-digital world to the digital world, and that
mhm,
and I don't want it to be nostalgic in any way, but just that there is this sense of them having her losing her bearing a little bit,
mhm.
that the world that I'm not sure that the world that she and Isabel lived apart from, in a sense, is
As invaded, kind of.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a bleak ending.
But not in a way, but I don't know. What
Yeah,
did everyone else think about the ending? Do you have any thoughts? I mean, I put you on the spot, but
yeah.
I, there, that the line too beautiful. So the world is too beautiful as if unaware is the end, is the whole
Mhm.
line. And it goes on with its wants and its beauty
Mhm.
during our suffering and after we're gone. And I thought all of the wanting, the ordering, everything. I just, was that to your mind the thing you were wrestling with, or I guess what was
Yeah,
the
I think
main
so.
thing?
I mean, in some ways, those are two contradictory things that I think are true at the same time, that the world is beautiful. It will go on,
Mhm.
um, despite all
And you
our
you can't,
interventions in it.
yeah.
Um, but there are all these other forces we have to resist
Hmm.
to,
Yeah, and you can order it all and you can amass it, but you
yeah,
can't obviously you can't take it with you.
yeah. And yet the world, it's not as if all those things, the bath mats or whatever, are going to erase the beauty of the world
Hmm.
either. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
guess that's the hopeful part of it. Yeah.
that's right. And there's
Yeah.
something about like enjoying the moment in that, she's at first trying to capture it all with the camera, and
Yeah.
then in the end she stops and she's just appreciating it. Uh,
Yeah.
and and there's something poignant about that as well. Well, we're almost out of time, but have you ever thought about? I was thinking about what Nora's life might be like afterwards, and I just thought, have you ever thought about
I
I'm
think,
very curious about her and
yeah,
like what happens now for
yeah,
Nora.
I hadn't really, I think, well, I mean, I imagine it will both be enriched by this, continue to be enriched by the friendship, but also it's a real loss. So,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, it's irreplaceable, as the first
yeah,
sentence points out.
yeah, yeah,
There's a
um,
presence to it.
yeah. I hope she's not too lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I hope
yeah,
not too. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love their friendship. I
yeah.
thought, and it reminded me in some ways of that Michael Cunningham story, White Angel. Because
Oh,
have you ever read White Angel?
no, no, I haven't.
It's just about two brothers and the loss of one brother, but in the
Mhm.
same way that really highlighted the singularity of the relationship, the irreplaceability of the relationship,
Yeah,
he does the same thing in White Angel and really captures
Mhm.
the nostalgia and also just the immediacy of it, just
yeah,
the aliveness of the relationship,
right.
even in
Yeah,
the midst of what we know is like a huge loss.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That is, yeah,
So,
that's a,
well, Fran,
Yeah, I know you have to go, Kelly, but I just wanted to mention one other thing. In your story, Madeline, where you talk about the man, the tickets that that the great
oh, yeah,
aunt.
the concert
mm,
tickets. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, I thought. See, when you, Kelly, mentioned about extending the story or a part two, I thought of that was so well. I mean, maybe it's perfect as it is because it's just a suggestion, but it also is so potent because it lets you know how much we don't know about other people who we think
yeah,
we know. And
yeah.
so I love that.
Thank you. I sort of feel intrigued, but maybe that man has a story.
I think maybe, yes,
Yeah,
This could
exactly.
be a
Yeah, we
yeah,
were all
novel.
intrigued by that.
yeah, yeah,
It really could be. Yes, Jennifer.
While you're brainstorming other stories to write, I based off this, the thing that I can't stop thinking about is what will Nora's next birthday be like? Because her birthday was so tied to this friend,
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
that's
connection
great.
of the birth and life and
yeah,
death. And there's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
I
that's
mean,
what, yeah.
we don't, I guess we don't know a lot about what her life is like without Isabel. Isabel has friends, a sort of knitting friend, and so, yeah,
And that part was interesting too, because when I have seen people die, they usually get very close to the person who is taking care of them the most.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which can sometimes, I think, be, I mean, in my experience with both two friends and then also my parents, can be unsettling for the person who thought
Oh yeah. That's
they meant
right.
so much to them. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
to see them get close to their caretaker.
yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes the carers know so much and can be so good at caring. And
Yeah. Or so sometimes I think it's almost like a child, a
yeah,
regression rather
definitely.
than a real thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Or maybe because the carers don't have a history with the person, they can be sort of freer of
Yeah.
all the all this.
Expectations and
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah,
it's,
Well,
see how many thoughts we have.
I
I
know, I
love
know.
it.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Madeline. This has
Oh,
been
thank you.
wonderful. Love the
Thank you,
story.
everyone.
What
Thank
a
you. Thanks
joy.
very much.
Thanks,
Okay.
Kelly.
Bye
All right.
bye.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thank
Thank
you,
You
you
you.
too.
too.
Bye.
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 Bye bye.